Did Elon Musk just say that he was creating a robot army? Listen for yourself.
Is it true that you're planning a robot army of a sort?
Whether we do it or whether Tesla does it, Tesla works closely with XAI. Like you've seen how many humanoid robot startups are there. Like it's like I think Jensen Huang was on stage with a massive number of robots, robots from different companies. I think there was like a dozen different humanoid robots. So, I mean, I guess part of what I've been fighting and maybe what has slowed me down somewhat is that I'm a little I don't want to make Terminator real, you know. So I've been sort of, I guess, at least until recent years, dragging my feet on AI and humanoid robotics. And then I sort of come to the realization it's happening whether I do it or not. So you got really two choices. You could either be a spectator or a participant. And so well, I guess I'd rather be a participant than a spectator. So now it's, pedal to the metal on humanoid robots and digital superintelligence.
So that's actually part of a really fascinating discussion Elon Musk had with Gary Tan, who is the president and CEO of Y Combinator AI Startup School. He's gathering some 2,500 of the brightest students from PhDs down to undergrads in computer science and engineering to talk to minds like Elon Musk. And in this fascinating conversation, he spoke with Musk about the future of AI, augmented humans, and much more. And what Musk says is fascinating, but it's also very concerning. So the robot army remark is actually relatively benign compared to the rest. What he said about digital superintelligence tells us that the timeline on this stuff is coming right now. He says it's going to be this year or next year. Watch.
I think we're quite close to digital superintelligence. It may happen this year, and if it doesn't happen this year, next year for sure. A digital superintelligence defined as smarter than any human at anything.
Even though that's there and concerning, what's the most concerning is his stuff about brain chips, or as he calls them, Neuralink, because he's talking about it augmenting human beings, because he starts off, as you hear him, he starts off talking about what he's doing. He's helping those who are having problems, tetraplegics and also blind people. But you'll hear what he's doing, and then he says, oh, by the way, it's not all going to be for people with disorders. It's going to create super beings. Watch.
Especially our output bandwidth is very low. The sustained output of a human over the course of a day is less than 1 bit per second. So there's 86,400 seconds in a day, and it is extremely rare for a human to output more than that number of symbols per day. So certainly for several days in a row. So you really with a Neuralink interface, you can massively increase your output bandwidth and your input bandwidth. Input being right to you have to do right operations to the brain. We have now 5 humans who have received the kind of the read input, where it's reading signals, and you've got people with ALS who really have they're tetraplegics, but they can now communicate with similar bandwidth to a human with a fully functioning body, and control their computer and phone, which is pretty cool. And then I think in the next 6 to 12 months, we'll be doing our first implants for vision, where even if somebody's completely blind, we can write directly to the visual cortex, and we've had that working in monkeys. Actually, I think one of our monkeys now has had a visual implant for 3 years, and at first it'll be fairly low resolution, but long term you would have very high resolution and be able to see in multispectral wavelengths. So you could see an infrared, ultraviolet, radar, like a superpower situation. But like at some point, the cybernetic implants would not simply be correcting things that went wrong, but augmenting human capabilities dramatically.
Can we all be superhumans? Can we all have augmented vision and augmented hearing? And like, is the bionic man going to be sort of a reality? We'll be able to think faster, to have access to information like never before if we get these chips. I want to tell you something. I remember very well that during COVID, when they were just rolling out the jabs, when we just had learned that they're developed with aborted fetal cell lines and how horrific that was, how problematic. And I was talking with Bishop Athanasius Schneider, and he said to me at the time, and this was just being proposed for everybody, people weren't sure if they could get it, and all the people who were super, super afraid were like, oh, can we be the first in line? Well, I remember at the time, he telling me if this were mandated, it could very well be the mark of the beast because it has a moral impediment. Now, you can say that really for the jab, because the Pope Francis at the time said it's mandatory, it's okay that it has this, aborted fetal cell line connection, it doesn't matter. Most of the bishops, almost all the bishops of the world said it was okay. What if it wasn't like that with the jab? What if for this chip, you really had to betray your faith in a kind of obvious way to you? But what if you had to, well, let's say they didn't even say it was betraying your faith. In order to get this chip, to become a superhuman, to be an augmented human being, you had to be a good citizen. To define a good citizen, though, you couldn't be a misogynist, you couldn't be anti-woman. Of course, that means that you would have to be pro-choice, you would have to support abortion because that's a woman's right? And you would know that, but would that be enough for you to say no to becoming a superhuman? Would that be enough to make you say no when your relatives and your friends are all doing it and becoming superhuman around you? Would it be enough to stop you when your friends or your relatives tell you you're depriving your children of being superhumans like everybody else? You're turning them into what? Not only second-class citizens, you're insane. What are you doing? All you have to do is say that you're pro-woman like everybody else, that you let people love who they want to, and you have no problem with a man loving a man or a woman loving a woman. Maybe you have to look upon this new leader as a true Christ or something. Oh yes, my friends, it's going to be real hard. We were given a dry run when you were denied travel, when you were denied visiting your loved ones, your sick, older, elderly loved ones, when you were denied going into restaurants because you weren't jabbed. We were given a dry run at the pressures that you will have from being unwilling to take the mark of the beast. Imagine now if you have to be faced with these new pressures that are right around the corner. I can tell you one thing. You will not be able to refuse on your own strength. The only way that I or you or anybody else will be able to refuse the unbelievable pressure that's going to come from this type of a mark of the beast, if that's what this is, will be through total reliance on our Lord. Be in the state of grace. Make sure you're going to confession regularly. Live a life where you practice some prayer and fasting as well, because you need to be detached from the things of this world and attached to the things of the next to be able to think straight, to do this properly. Because the consequences for taking the actual mark of the beast are eternal. If you read in Revelations, it's very, very clear. Revelation 14 from 9 to 11. And another angel, a third, followed them, saying with a loud voice, if anyone worships the beast and its image and receives a mark on his forehead or his hand, he also shall drink from the wine of the wrath of God, poured out unmixed into the cup of his anger, and he shall be tormented with fire and sulfur in the presence of the holy angels and in the presence of the Lamb, and the smoke of their torment goes up forever and ever. It's basically saying that those who take the mark of the beast will be in hell. So it's serious stuff. It's serious stuff that we can't handle on our own, but we can with total reliance on our Lord. According to Elon Musk, these things are just around the corner. So we have to do what we always do, stay right with our Lord. For LifeSite News, this is John Henry Westen. May God bless you.